Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Hi there. Welcome, everybody. Bienvenido. So glad to see you guys. I hear a little bit of an echo, so I think I took that out. Hello, and welcome to Silk Masquerades. If you don't know me, I'm Valerie, and I'm so excited that you took the time to stop by this evening. So make sure you let us know in the comments in the chat where you're checking in from. We're so glad to have you. And if you're checking this out on the replay, make sure you let us know that you stopped by. We want to be able to connect with you and say hello. Well, I'm so excited about this afternoon's discussion. So excited about this episode. We are on episode number 8, everybody. So before we get into that, want to kind of move into a few. Um, Hi, it's Larnita. Larnita saying hello. Hi, Larnita. Thank you so much for stopping by. We're going to take care of a little bit of excitement. So we had, in a couple of weeks ago, we had Shelly Spain on. We talked about home decor, and she shared with us some information. And so we had a raffle question that was out there. In episode number 7 of Silk Masquerades, Shelley Renee Walker Spain shared home decor tips. What did she tell us about curtains? Okay, so that was the question. What did she tell us about curtains? We had several individuals that took the time out to answer the raffle question. And then we had a few that actually answered it correctly. So in that episode, Shelly Spain told us that when hanging curtains, we should go wide outside of the frame of the window, go wide, and go high, tall, above the frame of the window when hanging curtains because it makes the room look bigger. And she also said, no high water curtains. Your curtains should drape the floor or they should pool on the floor. Okay, that is what Shelley Spain told us about curtains. And so we had some individuals that actually answered the question correctly. And so Gwen Henderson Gathers, Josephine Green Hudson, and Nia Green answered the questions correctly. And so we are going to see if this is going to work and I can actually share my screen with you so that you can see. I hope you guys can see the wheel of names here. So we have these three individuals and we're going to spin the wheel to see who will win the raffle drawing for a free gift. Oh my goodness. It is Josephine Green Hudson. All right. I hope you guys were able to see that. That is Josephine Green Hudson. I want to say congratulations. You are the winner of our raffle drawing, and that is my auntie in full disclosure. So I'm going to let you guys know that she is the winner, and I will be sending you a free gift. Sending you a free gift. All right, so I've got quite a few people checking in, and we're going to say hello. Hi, Jackie, Madison, Lisa, Winsome. Hi, Aubrey. All right. So, you guys, on last week, we had the privilege of talking with Aubrey and her beautiful son, Jackson. That was a very enlightening conversation. So, if you haven't had a chance to check out that episode, please make sure that you go and check out episode number 8 with Aubrey. We talked about pediatric rare diseases and we talked about Jackson and provided some awareness regarding his illness. And so now the raffle question that is out there, make sure you go over to Silk Masquerades on Facebook. There's a Silk Masquerades page. There's also one on Instagram. These raffle questions are there. So make sure you go out and take the opportunity to answer the question, and you too will be entered into the drawing for next week. In episode number 8, Aubrey Midget informed us that blank people in America have a rare disease. Her son Jackson has blank rare diseases. We need you to fill in the blanks. I know you guys can do it. So take a moment, go over to the Silk Masquerades page on Instagram or on Facebook and answer the question. You'll be entered into the raffle drawing. So we're going to move right along because I am excited about this afternoon's conversation. We have joining us Eth'l Lee, Mrs. Eth'l Lee, and she is going to talk to us. To tell the truth is the title of our discussion this evening. So I am excited, you all. We're going to bring her over to the screen, and we want to say hello and welcome. Welcome her, you guys. Make sure you put it in the chat. Let her know that we are so excited to have her join us this evening. So, hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Very good. So, listen, we've got some people checking in. There's Larnita. She's saying hello.
Hello, Larnita.
It's Jackie Clark, and she's
Oh,
telling us hello.
hello, Jackie.
And we have
Hi,
Madison saying
Madison.
hi. It's Lisa Sumler. Hello,
Hi, Lisa.
Lisa. And we have Winsome.
Hello,
Winsome is saying
Winsome.
hi, Winsome. And then we have Jackie Clark is saying hi, Sister Lee.
Hello, Jackie. Hey, Joy.
Joy happens to be, now tell me who Joy is.
She's my daughter, my older daughter.
Yes, welcome, Joy. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so happy to have you guys join us. So, Sister Lee, I'm so excited to have you come on and speak with us this afternoon. And the topic this afternoon is to tell the truth. So, we're going to start off with you. I always love talking to you and listening to you. So, we're going to start off with you telling us who is Eth'l Lee?
Well, that name you have just called me is a bit abbreviated. My name is Eth'l Mae Toombs Jackson Lee.
Oh.
Now, it carries a long history with it. Now, I was born Eth'l Mae Toombs, and Toombs is a family name, and somewhere from up there in King William, right here in Virginia. And the story is told that there were two Toombs families, that this Caucasian man had a wife who was Indian and a wife who was Caucasian. And our family stemmed from the Indian side of Mr. Toombs' family. So that's how we got that. And my name Eth'l Mae came from my mom naming me in the delivery room of a Jewish nurse that was taking care of her at the time when I delivered. And then I'd like to let you know that when I was in the first grade, you know how the teacher goes around and she says everybody's name.
Mm-hmm.
So she was calling Eth'l Mae Toombs, and I didn't answer. And finally, after she had finished asking everyone, she tapped me on my shoulder and she says, "Are you Eth'l Mae Toombs?" I said, "No, I'm Eth'l Mae Jackson." And what we found out is that my mother had married Horace Linwood Jackson, my stepfather.
Okay.
And while I was at home, they were teaching me my name was Eth'l Mae Jackson. Well, they had to get that straight. So they researched the birth certificate, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because later on in my life, I found out that they had not researched it and changed it, but somehow they were able to put me in the school system with the name Eth'l Mae Jackson.
Oh, okay.
So that's a little bit about the name.
Okay, all right. So tell me where you grew up. Tell me a little bit about your family, your education.
Well, we're right here in Virginia, for those of you who may be out of the state.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I said I was born in Washington, D.C. at Garfield Hospital. And the reason I was born there is because I am a fille de base. Now, any of you who may know French, you may have to figure it out for yourself. But I was trying to kind of explain it to you.
Okay.
My mother was single, so that made me a fille de base.
Oh.
And I never knew my biological father.
Mm-hmm.
But it never carried a pall over my life because, as I just said, I knew my stepfather, and he was my real daddy as far as I was concerned. And
Okay.
so I grew up in Newport News. I went to school, elementary school, Newport News, Booker T. Washington, right there on Chestnut Avenue. And then I went to Carver Elementary and Carver High School that still exists, but I think it was renamed to Crittenden. And I graduated from Huntington High School in 1963. So I don't mind telling you my age. And then I went on to Norfolk State University, and that's where I took my nursing course.
Ah.
And I was in high school, they had a program called Diversified Occupation. And what that was, they would take seniors who were pretty much through with all of their courses. In fact, all I had to do, was an English course and my DO class, Diversified Occupation. And in that class, they taught us how to go to work, how to react to your boss, how to get along with people, how to dress to go to work. And I worked at the Whitaker Hospital. Some of you may have read about it. It was a small Black hospital in the United States. There were about, back then in the 60s, there was only about 4 of them. And one of them was Riverside Hospital in the South, which was an Adventist hospital, which was a small Black hospital. Well, that hospital let me be a nurse's aide in the summer.
Oh.
And when I got ready to go to Norfolk State, they gave me a scholarship. So I went to Norfolk State on that scholarship as well as a state scholarship. And the state of Virginia will pay your tuition if you maintain a B average in nursing school, which I did. So the hospital money that they gave me, I was obligated to return to them and work for 5 years. And I think in the state, you have to do the same thing. I'm not sure of the number of years. But needless to say, I went back to Whitaker to work as a registered nurse. While I was working, I guess somebody saw value in me or whatever I was doing. And they wanted me to open up the ICU, the first ICU that we had at Whitaker Hospital. And they wanted to send me to Riverside Hospital. At that time, Riverside didn't have any, hello, Lauren, they didn't have any African-American nurses or doctors. And as a little side note here, Dr. C. Waldo Scott, who was the father of Bobby Scott, or Robert Scott, that most of you all know, was the first African-American to work at Riverside Hospital here in Newport News. So anyway, I went over there and I came back. I was not treated well, even though I looked like them. Now that's the truth. That's the real truth. Mm-hmm. They still knew that I came from Whitaker and they knew my background, so they treated me poorly. They didn't want me to touch the patients. They didn't want me to touch their equipment. They didn't want me to read the charts. But I just stood around and looked, took notes on how to set up the ICU, and went back to Whitaker and set up the ICU. And after having done that and worked for a couple of years, Whitaker Hospital was having difficulty keeping nurse anesthesia people. And so Dr. Scott came to me and he said, we need somebody to go to school to be a nurse anesthetist. Well, I didn't even know anything about nurse anesthesia, nothing. So one of the nurses who was a part-time nurse anesthetist came and brought me their journal, and she showed me what was required. She also showed me the salary in the back of the book. Oh. So I brought it home to Sam, my husband, who will be my husband of 57 years coming this December.
Can I stop you right there?
Yes, you can.
So when and where and how did you meet Sam?
Okay. Well, I lived on 39th Street in Newport News, and Sam was working at the lumber company, Johnson and Wimsatt Lumber Company, and he was driving this little blue Ford that we later called the Blue Beetle. And he would give the men from the lumber yard a ride home, and he would drop them off at a store, which was about 2 blocks from where we lived. And I think I saw him and waved at him. And then one day he was driving the lumber truck, and I crossed the street, and he declares I laid him out for almost hitting me. But that was our first encounter. And then I had started going to church with my uncle. And my uncle carried me to a Wednesday night prayer meeting. And who should walk up but this guy who almost hit me with the truck?
Wow.
And so my uncle asked him to stand with me outside and to introduce me to the people as they came in. So that's how we met.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Back to the nursing school.
Okay. So they wanted me to go to nurse anesthesia school. And here's another thing that has real truth to it. I applied to Norfolk General Hospital School of Nurse Anesthesia. I was denied admission. They didn't give me a real reason. They had never met me or spoken with me. But what they did have was my curriculum. They knew that I went to Huntington High School, which was an African-American school, and they knew that I graduated from Norfolk State. So they assumed that I was African-American, and I really honestly believe that that's why I was not accepted into Norfolk General School. But we also had the school at Norfolk Community Hospital, which was a Black hospital, but it was not as small as Whitaker, because they had residents who came from Howard University to do their residence there. And so I joined that school. I went to school at Norfolk Community Hospital School of Anesthesia and graduated from there. And then you have to take a board and become certified. So that's how I
Oh,
got into the anesthesia field.
so let me ask you, when you took home the book showing the salary and you explained it to your husband, was he on board with you doing this? Was this something, you know, was there hesitation?
Not at all. In fact, through
Okay.
our whole life, my husband has been excited, and I don't think he'll mind if I say that I made more money than he, just to put it
Mm-hmm.
bluntly. And
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't flaunt the money. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
was not a big spender. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, we're just in our second home that we ever bought. I never required a lot, maybe a car. I
Uh-huh.
had always admired a Lexus, so I think he got me the Lexus. And he thought that I might want a Jaguar, so we got a Jaguar. But I really didn't. I think he wanted the Jaguar. But he never complained about the salary difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay, so what was your experience like um, after you completed the course and you started working? What was that like?
Okay. Well, I worked at Whitaker because when I went to the anesthesia school, I had to quit work as a nurse. And I had two children. And I think at that time, they may have been something like maybe 5 and 2. If I look back to the years, I could figure it out. And I needed money for a babysitter. So the hospital gave me a little bit of money every month so that I could go. And I drove my car over there every day. And also, Norfolk State at that time, we used to have to pay a toll to go through the tunnel.
Mm.
So Norfolk State allowed me to have student tickets. And so I went through the tunnel to Norfolk Community Hospital the entire time. Now, we did do a 3-month stint at Howard University. Norfolk Community did not have thoracic, which is lung surgery, nor did they have brain surgery. So I had to go up there to learn anesthesia for those two components to make the requirements to take the test for certified registered nurse anesthetist. So I went there and I finished and I passed the exam. And then I started working at Whitaker. I worked at Whitaker in anesthesia, and I also had to give them some time because they gave me money, and I
Right.
was willing to do that. I think I worked for about 12 years in anesthesia there. And there was we didn't have anesthesiologists at first. For the first 5 years, it was just me and Ms. Rooks, another lady who was a nurse anesthetist, and we did well.
Okay.
But as time went on, some of our surgeons were also working at the bigger hospital, Hampton General, which was called Dixie at one point. And they were getting a little bit edgy because they didn't have an anesthesiologist working with them at Whitaker, but they had an anesthesiologist at the other hospital. So we got an anesthesiologist that came to work with us, Dr. Eth'l Lee, and he left. And not long after that, we got a woman anesthesiologist who was from one of the islands. I'm not sure, and I'm not going to repeat her name.
Mm-hmm.
But I had difficulty with her, and I didn't know this, but whatever island she came from, they did not accept fair-skinned African Americans, or either they were jealous or there was some disruptive attitude. And so she treated me that way. And it
Mm.
came to a point that the lady I was working with was getting ready to retire. And she went to the administrator and told the administrator that I was not the right person to lead the department and that one of our part-time people should take the job. And when she did that, I started hunting. I went to Mary Immaculate and applied, and I went to Hampton General and applied, and I got the job at Hampton General. In fact, both the people worked at both places. And the thing I liked about going there was that I thought I was making good money at Whitaker. And I don't mean to make this a money issue, but to
Mm-hmm.
show you the disparity, even today, in how we make money and why our people make less money. When I went to Hampton General to work, my salary increased by $16,000 a year.
Wow.
So I had been working, and I thought I had a good salary, but I was awakened to a new thing. Now, when I went to Hampton General, I think I was received well. The only negative thing I got was from the former lady I worked with, the nurse anesthetist. And she said, I told one of my friends that my nurse anesthetist had come down there and they don't even know who you are. I said, well, maybe because it's the way I look. But no one has asked me, who I am. So I told her I was
Mhm.
not hiding what I was, and I was
Mhm.
working. So
Mhm.
that went good.
Okay.
I think there's always contention between nurse anesthetists and anesthesiologists. The
Okay.
anesthesiologists are medical doctors. I never thought I knew all that they knew. I think it's the doctors who are afraid of what we do. We don't try to, well, it might be some nurse anesthetists who try to outsmart them or somehow.
Mhm.
But we had a couple of those kinds of things, but nothing to the point that it made me want to leave. I said, I think I had to tell one of the anesthesiologists one day who was questioning something I had done. I can't remember what it was. But I
Mhm.
said, you know what? I work with 14 anesthesiologists, which means I know 14 ways to do the same thing you know how to do one way. So
Oh.
it made me, feel like, I'm learning, constantly learning in an
Mhm.
environment where I can learn and be, a good employee.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Very
So
good.
now what else you want to know? Can I tell
Well,
you why I call myself Eth'l?
yes, please tell me why you call yourself Ethel.
Well, and it wasn't the anesthesiologist who was from the island, but one of the island doctors, when he was new and we were introducing everybody, and I said, my name is Ethel. And he said, oh, Ethel. And that's and I liked it. I said it has a rhythm to it. It sounds nice because I really didn't like the name Ethel. And
Okay.
yeah, so Ethel sound good to me. And so I adopted it. And so now everybody, friends, church members, neighbors, everybody calls me Ethel.
Exactly, because that's what I do. And whenever I see it, it's like, it's not Ethel, it's Ethel.
Ethel.
So, okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, what other experience did you have as far as working in the field of as a certified registered nurse anesthetist?
Well, the only other thing that I think would be, it's not really that interesting, is that after the hospital was paying us at first,
Hmm.
and then they started requiring the anesthesiologist to employ us. So the group
Oh,
employed us starting at Hampton General, and then we moved to Careplex, and we were working for them. And then our group decided to just work at Mary Immaculate. So as time progressed, I started working at Mary Immaculate.
okay.
And I had to retire early, which will bring you up to the illnesses that I had.
Hmm.
I in 202,
Hmm.
I had my first colonoscopy, and the reason I had it was I was sitting in the examining room or the post-op room with Sam, who had just had his, and I know it was the Holy Spirit telling me, "Girl, you haven't had your colonoscopy yet, and you're older than 50." And so
Okay.
I went and got one done. And I had it done at Mary Immaculate, and it just so happened that the schedule was turned around and I was last.
Mm.
And they found a polyp when they did it. And the woman who did my colonoscopy immediately called in a surgeon, a woman, Dr. Elizabeth Neal.
Hmm.
And I think this was like a Tuesday. And she said, we can do your surgery on Friday. And
Wow.
so I had the colon surgery on Friday, but she said the tumor is kind of good, so we won't have to do bag on the side. And so I
Hmm.
did well.
Okay.
And then when you are over 50 and have surgery, they require chest x-ray. They want to make sure everything's okay. And in the process, they saw a lesion in my right lung.
Mm.
And so they said, well, it's probably TB because you worked around patients, but they wanted to do a lung biopsy.
Hmm.
That was one of the worst procedures I've ever had in my life. because
Why do you say
yeah,
that?
you are awake, and they put this long needle through your
Yes.
chest between two bones. And it really hurt.
Oh,
I knew the radiologist who was doing the procedure, and they had to do it again. And he says, "Now, Ethel, I want you to breathe the same amount of air you were breathing when I did the other one." I said, "How in the world am I going to remember how much breath I was taking?" But at any rate, they did it, and they found out it was cancer as well.
oh,
And
wow.
so in September, 9/11, in fact, 9/11/2002, I
Mm-hmm.
had my right upper lobe removed from my lung. And, that wasn't so bad. So,
Mm-hmm.
roundabout, I think the doctor had told me I didn't need another colonoscopy for about 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the Holy Spirit told me, I think you ought to get it in 18 months. When I got that in 18 months, they found 36 polyps in my large bowel.
Wow.
And so I had to have my large bowel removed. Now, the function of your large bowel is to remove liquids.
Mm-hmm.
So when they remove the water and liquids from your body, then you have a solid stool,
Mm-hmm.
which I no longer have. I know you all were waiting for that information. It may be a little bit TMI there, but that's my life. And
Yes.
that's my life. And in fact,
Mm-hmm.
because of that and because of the frequency of that, I could no longer work.
Okay.
As it was already, if you're doing a case in anesthesia, you're in the room with the patient. You can be in the room for a 30-minute case or 24-hour case.
Mm-hmm.
And we got little relief. So I knew
Mm-hmm.
I could not work with that going on. So
Mm-hmm.
I retired in let me think of the year 2004.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember. Anyway,
Okay.
uh and I stopped work. And in the process, I had pap smears forever. And
Mm-hmm.
now I am menopausal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had breakthrough bleeding. Right away, I went to my GYN, who took a biopsy and found out I had uterine cancer. And so they took out my uterus. So now you
Well,
see, I have had three cancers, and they do think that it was my exposure to asbestos. Sam
wow.
worked around asbestos. And, of course, I washed his clothes, and sometimes you had to invert them and shake them. And so that was the deal on that. But since then, I have had,
Mm-hmm.
praise the Lord, I have had no other encounters with cancer.
Oh, that's awesome. That is amazing. So now tell me, were you afraid ever?
Afraid of what?
Just having to have the surgery and
Oh,
the
never.
diagnosis and
I
coming
never,
back.
never was afraid.
Mhm.
I think I think I gave my life to God once again. Now, this is going to really be too much information,
Okay.
but I was in
Okay.
the bathroom,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of had my head down. I was having a difficult time. And I said, God, why in the world are you putting me through this?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he gave me an answer, but I just got up and decided I'm going to stick with you anyway, God. And I did, even until this day. So I think one of the other painful experiences I had, and I can share this with some of you who may have surgery. For my chest surgery, they put in what they call an epidural catheter. And the catheter is in your back, and the medicine drops in to keep you pain free.
Mm-hmm.
And so the nurse anesthetist from the office came to me and she says, Ethel, I'm going to take out your catheter out your back. I said, okay. She took that catheter out of my back, which was giving me pain medicine. And within about 45 minutes, it felt like I had an ice crusher wrapping around my chest, burning like fire.
Oh.
And I had to call for pain medicine. But I learned from that,
Mm-hmm.
because I did go back to work a little while after the chest surgery. And I
Okay.
said, if ever I go to remove an epidural catheter from a patient, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
give them their pain medicine first,
Ah.
so it can kick in. And when they have that catheter to remove, they can be pain free.
Okay. All
Yep.
right.
That was
Awesome.
that.
So, with your career as a CRNA, did you find that you were fulfilled? Were you satisfied with the choices and decisions that you made? And the difficulty that you had in getting to where you wanted to be.
Oh, yes. I loved my job. In fact, as a little kid, I wanted to be a brain surgeon. We know that's a
Oh.
neurosurgeon now, but as a little kid,
Hmm.
around about 6 or 7, I always said I want to be a brain surgeon. I don't know where it came from. So my parents always bought me doctor's kits, nurses' kits, science kits. So I was in that realm of taking care of people. So
Okay.
I'm very fulfilled by that job.
Okay. And so, uh, once you retired, what did you do to keep yourself busy?
Well, I like to cook, and that's one of my hobbies. But I cook plain and simple. I was just sharing with my daughter early today. I know I couldn't be on Chopped. I like to watch Chopped on TV, but I could not make that dish in 30 minutes. I don't have
Mhm.
all of those seasonings and things to make it taste good. I'm a very plain cook. Little salt, little pepper, little red pepper, maybe a little smoke seasoning, maybe a little cinnamon or nutmeg, but I'm not doing all that other stuff. So um, I accepted the request. They needed a volunteer at our church school to
Mhm.
work in the kitchen, in the cafeteria, to provide lunches for the students. And the first year, I was working with the person who was hired to do the job. And for the next 5 years, I volunteered to do the job. And
Mhm.
so I enjoyed that immensely because I got to know the young kids. I got
Mhm.
to interact with them. I got to feed them. I knew what they liked, what they didn't like, and I tried to provide those things that they liked. So that was, and then my husband started helping me. We would go buy the groceries at Costco and BJ's and Sam's Club. We had membership to all of them so that we could go get
Okay.
those things. So we really enjoyed doing that until we got to the point where we just couldn't do the physical,
Mhm.
picking up the food, unloading it. And
Mhm.
so we had to stop. But I can share this with you. The
Yes.
school had an announcement on a couple of weeks ago, and it said we need volunteers. So I called the head teacher and I told her I'm willing to be a volunteer. I said, well, I can cook a big old pan of macaroni and cheese like I used to. And
Mhm.
she reminded me that, well, we'll be in COVID, so we can't have open food.
Mhm.
Whatever they have, they're going to have like a bag lunch. And I said, okay, well, I can make the sandwiches here at home and make the bags and bring them to the school. So right now, I'm in that position where should they need me to volunteer, I think I could volunteer to do that.
Oh, that is awesome. That's awesome. So I
Yeah.
know Jackie said excellent cook. And yes, you say you're a plain cook, but we can all attest that dinners at Sister Lee's is not necessarily plain. It is an elaborate spread. And Larnita said, praise God for your cooking, Sister Lee. So
Thank you.
yes,
Thank you.
yes, indeed, we enjoy your cooking. So, what projects have you been working on? What I know that you also do a lot of writing.
I do. Well, one of the things that happened in my life in church, I think in church I've done just about everything.
Okay.
I was never a deacon or a deaconess,
Hmm.
but I was elected to be the first female elder in our church ever. And I think that was around 1984.
Okay.
And it was not received 100%. In
Hmm.
fact, for the first time, the pastor required that the people fill out a ballot. We have never done a ballot before for an election. We would just raise our hand and say amen, and the ballot would go through. But he pulled out this ballot and it had stringent requirements on it. You had to write your signature and print your name. And if it was not eligible, your vote did not count. At that time, my routine seat was in the center of church. And
Hmm.
when I saw that form, I just bowed my head and I said, God, if you want me to do this job, you make it so. And sure enough, I think I got 86% yes. And so
Oh,
with that
wow.
number, it was okay. It was okay. And we went from there. And I like to say people aren't elected elders. They are elders before they are elected. You have to demonstrate your love for the church, love for people, love
Mhm.
to do God's work, and then you become what you have already demonstrated. That's the way I felt about it. And
Okay.
I really enjoyed doing that. I think my main love though is teaching. I love teaching the class. And in
Mhm.
fact, I can share with you a little experience. I had planned to, or rather, I wanted to teach anatomy and physiology and at somewhere like Hampton University. So here I go trotting down there so I could get a master's degree in anatomy and physiology. And I talked to the doctor who's in charge of the anatomy department, and they looked at my transcript from Norfolk State. She said, "Well, this is too old. This was too long ago. And then you all don't have, Norfolk State didn't have the same kind of curriculum. You don't compare with Hampton University." So I said, "Thank you, ma'am," and I left. So I never pursued that again. But I really wish I could have. That's the only one thing that I did not do. But I didn't go after that hard because I could have gone somewhere else. So we call Hetmana. So
She's saying her.
now I've written several sermons, and the sermons that I
Mhm.
like to write are usually parables. And I
Okay.
wrote down a list of some of the names of the sermons. I wrote Swimming Upstream, which is a parable about salmon and how it goes through its life. Is
Mhm.
your cruise control on? And that's how you can control things that you're doing. God's GPS,
Mhm.
which means the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, and Sign, Seal, and Deliver. Now that sounds like an L. Green song, but I know Jesus signs on us, He seals us, and He is going to deliver us very soon.
Mhm.
I did the flying geese in V formation. The real ruby. Will the real ruby stand up? And that's taken from Proverbs 31, when God describes women's value is like a ruby. And so I enjoyed writing those. Now, I do enjoy doing word games. And I enjoy them so much that when I go to a baby shower or something, I have a good friend of mine who teases me, "I know you're going to win." So what that has done for me is I don't do them at showers anymore because I don't want to always be the winner.
Mhm.
But still, Brother Lee and I play Scrabble,
Mhm.
and he can beat me. He can beat me. So it all depends on the letters that you get. And I have written poems, and I know you wanted me to share a couple of the poems that I have written.
Mhm.
And if you
Yes.
don't mind, I'm going to read two. One
Yes,
is
ma'am.
called Preacher Man, and the other is called An Ode to Jason. I'm going to read Preacher Man first.
Okay.
I entered this in the local newspaper contest, but I didn't win anything.
Okay.
From all walks of life, you come to tell the gospel story. Just where did you get this message that you've been ordained to tell me? University, seminary, online course, or maybe on grandma's knee? You know the congregants are waiting to welcome, analyze, and scrutinize too. How does he look? What does he wear? Is it a robe, an alb, cassock, and shades of blue? Vestments do cover the inner man, for the God of man must shine through. Is the voice firm, brusque, a soft, echoing ring? God's plan of salvation to all you bring. Just what is your style to deliver the word? Parabolic, the word direct, the route of itching ears, or can a bit of mother wit be heard? Remember, as you take your place, preacher, the opinions will ebb and flow. Let them know I too am a sinner saved by grace. That is
Ve-
the preacher.
Very nice.
Now, this one is an ode to Jason. I like to write odes. Odes kind of like extol the virtues of a person that you are connected with. And
Mhm.
Jason is one of my adopted sons. And
Yes.
he's also a member of the church that I go to.
Mhm.
And Jason was in the military. He raised two children as a single parent after
Mhm.
his wife died.
Mhm.
And I have entitled it Keep on Swimming, which is also after those salmon.
Okay.
When the bugle blew and the military call, not out of step lest he would fall, he kept on swimming. When commands changed, as they often do, he chose the right thing. He knew just what to do. He kept on swimming. When giving his life to God, this we all know is no easy commitment. He just kept on swimming. Now destined to be a single father of two, not fully aware of what's required of you, he keeps on swimming. A deacon of deacons, he is always there. When an assignment comes, there is no despair. He just keeps on swimming. Then there are those friends, each having their own personal requests. He smiles and answers and does his best and keeps on swimming. And so, Jason, my beautiful salmon, you have swum through the rocks, survived the rough waters, and dodged the hungry bears. Now you can come to this another passage. You have been faithful and true to the guard. Only God knows what lies ahead for you, but I know that you will keep on swimming upstream.
All right. That is very nice.
Well, thank you. And you also know that I'm in the process of writing a book.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you the name of the book
Uh-huh.
because I don't want nobody to steal my title. But the
Yes.
book is essentially an autobiography. Now, who would be interested in my autobiography? I'm not famous or anything, but it essentially tells the truth about being fair-skinned African American and the um, discrimination that you get from your own as well as others. And one of the things I think that really hurt me the most in life was I was in a bathing beauty contest. Now, folks, I know
Oh.
you like no bathing beauty right now, but I was about 16, 130 pounds, still maybe a little plump, but I looked pretty good.
All right.
And what you had to do, we went through several charm classes. This girl taught us how to walk around the pool. We had on heels and a bathing suit. And you would pose at a corner and stop, and just like models do. And as I turned the corner, I heard someone say from the stands, "Y'all had y'all's baby beauty contest last week down the street." He was implying that I should have been in the Caucasian beauty contest, but I kept on walking. I didn't win. I didn't even place. But I think that bothered me, that they would yell that out when here I am, raised, African American, and not accepted. I have another little vignette. Brother Lee and I went on a date down to Buckrow Beach. Wow. And at that time, you had Bayshore Beach and Buckrow Beach. So if you ever been to Buckrow Beach, now there's a pier out there, and Bayshore Beach was, well, it wasn't quite where the pier is, but Bayshore was on one side, Buckrow was on the other. It was separated by a fence.
Okay.
And then we had people who would yell at us on both sides. Why are you with her from our side? And why is he with you on the other side? So these things have gone through us our entire life. And I think another one, after we got married, my first daughter was born, and I'm going to remember this date, in 1966. And we had her cute little self in her little stroller going around the supermarket. And several of these women of the Caucasian persuasion wanted to peep and see what she looked like, because I think they assumed we were a mixed couple. And then we have had situations, and we have had this happen to us just 3 weeks ago. We were in the supermarket together, and I had put some things up, and Sam was continuing to put the groceries on, and the teller was put her arm there to separate our groceries. And I said, oh, we're together. So even that feeling still spills over to today, 2021.
Wow. That is striking to me.
Yes. To tell the truth, that really happened.
Yeah. Wow. That is amazing. Well, in conclusion, Eth'l Lee, what would you like to share with the audience as far as words of encouragement that you would like to share? You know, my reason for wanting to do the podcast was so that I could get to know individuals rather than waiting or finding out what their story is, rather than, you know, reading an obituary and not really hearing it from the person themselves. So, what would you like to share in conclusion with the
Well,
audience?
I think I've given you pretty much information. I think you learned some things you didn't know already.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes.
I do have some favorite things. I have a favorite song, and that song is "Great Is Thy Faithfulness," because
Mm-hmm.
God has been faithful to me through all of these situations.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a favorite text that some other may like to grab onto, because while I was teaching class in church, you would ask people, how many of you are saved? And people were afraid to say that they're saved. But
Mm-hmm.
God gave it to us in his word, how we can know we are saved. And it's found in 1 John 5:13. And I'm going to read the essence of it. It
Okay.
says, these things have I written unto you that ye may believe in the name of the Son of God, and that ye may know that ye have eternal life. So if we believe in Jesus, who is the Son of God, then we can know we have eternal life. And my
Mm-hmm.
other little word of wisdom comes from Ralph Waldo Emerson. You
Okay.
cannot do a kindness too soon, for you never know how soon it will be too late. So when
Oh,
God speaks to you and tell you to do
that's good.
something, act on it then. Because a lot of times we can say, I wish I had, when it's too late.
Very true. Very true. Well, thank you, Sister Ethel Lee. Jackie Clark says that's her mother's favorite song
Favorite
as
song too.
well.
Yes.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us to tell the truth this evening. I appreciate it so much. You being willing to commit to come on. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. And maybe if I get the book published, we can have the book, we can talk about the book.
Absolutely. Definitely. It is a date. We'll get that scheduled as soon as you let me know.
All right. Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you.
so sit tight for me, okay?
Okay.
All right, everybody. That was Ethel Lee, retired CRNA and teacher as well as writer. And I am so thankful that she was able to come on and share her story with us. So grateful that you all took the time to check us out this afternoon. We appreciate it so much. We want to thank her for coming by. Thank you. All right. So coming up, you all, we have next week, we have Brandon Howard. And Brandon is going to be here for Power Fitness. Now, Brandon is a health coach. He is a fitness, nutrition, and exercise specialist, orthopedic specialist as well. So make sure you are here 7 p.m. on next week. We're going to have Brandon, and he's going to be giving us some information on fitness, nutrition, as well as exercise and health. You don't want to miss it. Please make sure that you are in the place to on next week. Okay. Well, you guys, we have come to the end of another episode. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and check us out. And if you're checking us out on the replay, please make sure you leave a comment. Let us know that you were here. We'd love to connect with you. If you have a moment, go over to the Silk Masquerades page on Instagram or even on um, Facebook, and then check that out. And remember, if there's something missing in your smile, maybe it's time for you to bloom right where you're planted, and then come tell us about it. Okay, let's get into it. All right. Peace and blessings, everybody. Have a good evening. Bye.